Welcome to an introduction to Motorola MOSCAD ACE 3600 System Tools Suite, version 21.60. Let's begin from the desktop. Double click on the Motorola ACE 3600 STS icon here. This presentation will cover basic and intermediate features of Motorola STS. For this introduction, I'll be creating a new project, disabling a generic network table, and adding a new RTU to the project using the click and drag. Let's begin by right clicking on STS and open. Select yes. Okay, now as this is our first project, our open project dialog opens. And like I say, as this is our first project, let's click on new project and create new project dialog box opens. Give the project a name. We'll call it test. A description. This is an optional description. We'll give it test. System address we'll leave at 0, and we enter an MDLC password. Now by default the MDLC password is MOSCAD, all lowercase. So the project now will be created at this location. Press OK, and the system root screen will open. Next thing we do, click on File, select Project Settings, and we select Do Not Save Generic Network. For what we're doing, for the purpose of this video, and for the purpose of this project, we won't be using a network, so we don't really need to save the generic network. Hit OK. It's just that the MOSCAD, as we build a network, as we build a project, the MOSCAD STS generates its own network table. And as I mentioned, the scope of this video, we don't need a network table. Next, we come over here where there are two tabs. We've got a system tab and an inventory tab. From the inventory tab, we'll click and expand on ACE 3600, and the model CPU we'll be using is an ACE 3640. We click and expand on ACE 3640 or CPU ACE 3640 here, and we select the latest available firmware for STS 21.6, which in this instance is 21. So we click and drag that into our system root, and we have our Add RTU dialog box. System ID, give the site a meaningful site ID, so we'll give it 1 to start with. A site name, this is optional entry. A description, again, optional entry. Click Add, and our new site is generated on system root. Right click on the site and click on View, select View. And from here we've got many tabs that allow us to see. If you just hover the mouse over those tabs, it actually tells you what each tab does. We'll be looking at ports next. So we'll click on ports, select ports, and here we have, now the ACE 3640 comes with 2 optional plug-in ports, and the media available for those plug-in ports are, for plug-in 1, we've got radio, a dedicated RS-232 add-on card, a dedicated RS-485 card, and a 10100 megabit Ethernet card. Okay. The similarities between plug-in 1 and plug-in 2 are almost identical, except plug-in 2 only supports 10 megabit Ethernet speed. Okay, just be aware of that. If you're ordering Ethernet for plug-in 2, it has to be a 10 megabit only card. That's the only card that will support. Okay, next we go to serial interface 1. Now serial interface 1 is configurable RS-232 or RS-485. Okay, connection types, again, we've got user port, ladder controlled, local computer, RTU to RTU, external modem, external dial-up modem, protocol analyzer, third-party protocol like Modbus, slave or master, GPS receiver or PPP. Ignore any reference to ERINET because it's not supported with this model ACE. Okay, so just ignore that. So any reference to ERINET, please ignore. Okay. Next we look at serial interface 2. serial interface 2 is a dedicated RS-232 RS-232 port only, so you can only do RS-232. Connection type, very similar, in fact identical to serial interface 1. We'll get our user port, local computer, RTU to RTU, external modem, external dial-up modem, protocol analyzer, third-party protocol, GPS receiver or PPP. Again, any reference to ERINET, please ignore, it's not used. Okay, so you'll notice here as we select the ports, they turn orange. That allows us to select advanced configuration. From the event, there are many parameters under the advanced configuration settings. We've got a physical layer and a link layer. Don't make any changes here unless you're told otherwise. So, in fact, if you'll consult with your system engineer or system administrator before making any changes to these settings or these parameters here. And I'll just show serial interface 2, very similar configuration settings. Okay, so again, don't make any changes here unless you've been told to or instructed to. Next, we'll look at the I/O tab. And this tab is used to configure I/O modules. Again, it's not covered in the scope of this video. We'll get onto that as we need to. And again, under advanced, it's beyond the scope of this video. This is just purely a basic introduction into MOSCAD ACE 3600 STS. Next, we'll download the site. We actually have an RTU connected, so we'll download this RTU to this RTU. Now it's prompting us to save. Project must be saved for any download operation. Would you like to save it now? Select yes. And here's our download screen, our download dialog box. A couple of things we need to tick and untick. So firstly, make sure we select local because we are connected locally, serial or Ethernet. I think in this case we're going through serial connection. Unselect network configuration. We don't need the network configuration, and having it enabled will not allow you to download it. So untick it. The only thing we want to be able to download is a site configuration. So remote system file refers to the firmware for the STS or for the CPU. The network configuration, again, we're not using networking for this project, so it's not required. And site source is not required either for this in this instance. We have a couple of settings. Let the system decide when reset. These are default, so leave that at default. And don't erase flash before download. Again, we'll cover these at a later date. Select download, and because it's our first download, I've already entered the password. It's okay. It's going to reboot the unit. We should get a reboot successfully or successfully downloaded dialog. There we go. So download finished successfully. Select OK and close. And that concludes our basic introduction to STS using the click and drag method. If you have any suggestions, any ideas, anything you'd like me to do with MOSCAD or explain with MOSCAD, please let me know. I can be contacted via the email. And I look forward to your comments and suggestions. Thanks for watching.